Good morning, good day, and good evening. Welcome back to Tech Over Tea. I have got I was going to say regurgitating guest. That's whatever. We're not restarting it. I've got a returning guest. Livakivi, how you doing? Welcome back to the show. I think the last time you were on was like a year or so ago.
Hello. Yeah, most likely was something like a year ago. It was, I think back then I was like a pretty small channel at the
Yeah,
time, like 1,000 subscribers or something. I don't really remember, but it was a pretty long time ago.
if I recall correctly, it was one of I don't remember exactly which early Japanese video it was. Oh, no, it was the JoJo one. Yeah, that's the
Oh,
one that I found your channel.
yeah, that video is like in my mind, it's like completely ancient now. It's
Which is
like feels like 5 years ago.
mm. And then you had that next one, the Duolingo video, which did 1.7 million views.
Yeah, that was pretty unexpected, especially because like the video was out for a while, like I think for like a month or something, and it had like 1,000 views maximum, and then it
Mm.
like blew up suddenly.
Yeah, it's one of it probably got posted somewhere or something like that. Did you ever check the analytics on it to see like where the traffic was coming from?
Um, I don't really remember if it was posted anywhere. I think I posted it myself,
Right, right.
but it didn't really gain any traction from that. That's where it got from like the first 1,000 views. But I think YouTube just kind of started recommending it randomly after that.
I did have a bunch of people in my Discord like keep sending me various of those like early Japanese videos. Definitely a Duolingo one I know popped up at least a couple of times. So YouTube was doing something right with it, and that video I guess sort of at least helped to I guess cement an early audience a lot quicker than a lot of people would be going, especially like you were only what like 6 videos in on this channel, 8 videos in on this channel.
I guess yeah.
Mm.
Um, I think when I made the Duolingo video, I probably still had like 200 subscribers or something, if I
Yep.
remember correctly. And yeah, it's like I did gain quite a lot of subscribers from that video. I guess I can check how many I gained. Uh,
If it's
let's
less than a
see.
couple thousand, I'm gonna be real surprised. Like with 1.7 million, you got to at least get some sort of conversion between that.
I guess I got 6.4K according to YouTube analytics.
Jesus. To be fair, that's not a great conversion with that many views, but I guess
Yeah, but
sometimes like one-off videos don't convert that well. It's like if you have a couple of videos that roll in like that, that's when you start seeing the big numbers come in.
yeah, it's like I think the thing with that video is just like it kind of went for like started trending with such a general audience that when you have such a general video, like a trendy video or
Mm.
like then generally speaking, those type of viewers don't subscribe that much, I guess,
Yeah, yeah.
in general. And but still, like I think at the same time, I got a few of my other videos started getting quite a lot of views because of that Duolingo video. I assume it's because of that. For example, like the my first video on the channel also had like I think like 2,000 views or something at the time, but then it also started trending and got like 300,000 or something after that.
Well, yeah, that one is directly is like this exact same sort of like exact same sort of niche, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. Like it's
Yeah,
directly in that Japanese language learning niche. So if like that first video gets recommended, I would imagine the first video was probably in the recommended video feed alongside of that one, probably like right at the top, or maybe like
yeah,
the play
most
next
likely.
video or something like that.
Yeah, most likely.
But your channel has changed like a lot since that point. Like you still do the Japanese videos here and there, but you've been doing a lot of different stuff recently. Like your recent series, the renovation series. Honestly, I really enjoyed that series. Like, it was a really good set of videos.
That's nice to hear.
I,
It's yeah, like
sorry, go on.
the okay. You can continue for now.
I hadn't like checked out your channel for a while, and I think one of those might have popped up in my recommended or something like my YouTube home. I was like, what is Livakivi doing at this point? It's like renovating an abandoned Soviet store. Like, okay, let's see where
Yeah.
this goes. And I didn't know what you were going to be doing with it, but I sat there and watched all 3 episodes. Like, honestly, it was a really good series, and I would like to see more of that. Like, I guess trying out different things, because clearly you have a enjoyment for, I guess, explaining these various topics, digging into these different things, and trying out a lot of different things in your life rather than just, sitting there doing the same thing all the time.
Yeah, definitely. It's like my, I guess, quote unquote dream for YouTube from the beginning was that I could pretty much make a video about whatever I want. Because when I got started with YouTube, or rather, like the first time I started doing YouTube somewhat seriously, when I was much younger, well, not on this channel, but my previous channel, the issue was that I like stopped making videos when my channel was potentially going to grow. And the reason why was because uh, the genre of videos I had made thus far no longer like felt original, and I didn't have any ideas anymore
Right.
for that genre. So I just stopped making videos. But now here it's just like, if I am able to establish like an audience that just watches the channel because they enjoy the channel in general, then I can make like variety content, and I can make videos about whatever I want, which is something I really like. Because yeah, I like checking out new things, and like you said, I like explaining
Mm.
like random stuff about the experience in general when it comes to things like that.
I've got the video up on the screen right now. It's at the bit where you found the just the what 50-year-old whetstone, and just little things like that. They add a nice little touch to the videos that it doesn't necessarily need to be there. You could have just sharpened the scythe and be done with it, but you went off on this like little tangent about it. I think stuff like that is just cool. Like, I don't know how to properly explain it, but whatever you're doing, I think it's working, and I'm really enjoying it myself.
Oh, epic. It's really nice to hear, because like it's actually, I think, my most well received video series, in the sense that like it doesn't actually gain that many views. Well,
Mm,
now it has like kind of, the first episode is nearly at 10K views,
mm,
but before that it was like one of the worst, like it was the third worst video in terms of views
mm-hmm,
that I had posted in like a really long time. And I didn't really mind it, because the feedback was like really great, like the view to like ratio and comments, and they were all like really positive, and
mm,
people really enjoyed the series. And I was like pretty happy with the way it turned out. But when I was making the first video, I was actually like kind of worried, in the sense that it's so different from what my channel so far has generally been, in the sense that, first of all, it's like a real life video somewhat. And all my previous videos have been almost exclusively just me using a screen recorder,
yeah.
and using video game footage, and like just screenshots, and recording my screen in general and stuff like that. But then suddenly it's like a real life series that's like completely unrelated to everything I've been doing thus far. And it's also like, I don't know, like it's not such a common thing to do for a channel like mine, to just start suddenly doing some like renovation series, I suppose.
I think the benefit you do have is because your channel is still like, obviously this channel's been around for like what, a year, 2 years, 2 years. But
Yeah.
you don't have that many videos, so it's not like you have this really entrenched audience that's there for one particular thing. Obviously, the initial audience, showed up for the Japanese content because that's what initially popped
Yeah.
off. But you don't have like, you know, 400 videos spanning over 6+ years where making a sudden shift like that most of the time doesn't really play out that well.
Yeah, like definitely, in the sense that like there are channels which work way better in some specific medium,
Hmm.
and sometimes if they change mediums, then it's very well received. But in other times, it's like people just, they instantly have a negative connotation with them changing the style. Because, for
Yep.
example, let's say somebody who just makes videos about a specific video game
Yeah.
for like 5 years or something, and then suddenly they switch games, and people are like, they won't react too positively to it, because they're, first of all, they're scared that he will stop making videos about the game that they play and want to see. And the other thing is just like, they don't even care about the, creator as a whole. They just want to see the content about the video game and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of real, like, there's tons of examples of this going all the way back through YouTube history. Like, a lot of the big creators started on Call of Duty. A lot of
Yeah.
them fell off after they swapped from it. But some people ended up, sticking around and going further on. Like, PewDiePie used to be a Call of Duty channel, and thinking of what he's doing
Yeah.
now, it's such a big shift from that. Or you've got the time where, people doing, like, horror games, you've got the Happy Wheels stuff, you've got any of that stuff. Or like a more recent example is when Fortnite was popping off, there was a lot of streamers who were only doing, or like Apex Legends, a lot of streamers who only did that, and people weren't there for the person who was making it. I think that's what you've got going for your channel. It's not necessarily just about what you're saying. People are there for the style that you've got to the videos, the way that you're doing your editing, the just you as a person, as opposed to, hey, this is Duolingo. Duolingo is great. This is what's great about Duolingo. This is your opinion on it. This is my experience with it. So transferring that to something different, I think, is a lot easier. There's always going to be a drop off, but I don't think the drop off would be as harsh. At least over time. Maybe at that first video it would be a bit weird, like you were saying, it was third worst video, but over time I think it's easier to make that transition than being just pure, nothing about the person, I guess.
Yeah, if like the creator is in a pigeonhole, in the
Yeah,
sense
yeah.
that
Like if Watch Mojo started doing gameplay videos, like that wouldn't work at all.
yeah, I can already imagine it. Like, I feel like there have been companies that like start doing some video game let's plays, and they're like so formal and stiff, and like it's clearly like people can instantly tell. Like
Mhm.
the same thing goes for when companies make ads directed towards gamers or something. They never do really well, because like it's like always the fellow kids like
Yep.
reactions that people get from those.
On that note, do you actually know how the how you see the mobile game ads where you have some person playing a game and they have like the
Yeah,
gameplay
yeah,
there? Do you know how those ads are actually recorded? Because it's explains why they're so awkward and don't make any sense.
Well, I guess I really haven't thought about it, but now that you ask me about it, I feel like I guess they aren't even like the same game or something.
So
Or
the way
yeah,
it
okay,
works
just
is,
go on.
sorry.
And just go on.
Uh, I was going to say that the way it works is they're given a script. They usually don't get any gameplay footage whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah,
given a
yeah.
script to read, and they put the gameplay over it. They have no idea what's going to be there, and it's sort of just wing it, basically. Sometimes you get acting directions, sometimes you won't, and that can lead to some interesting inflections in voice that don't make any sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense, because like I think Connor from the Trash Taste
Yeah, yeah.
podcast, I think he had like one video game ad, or mobile game ad, I mean, and it was exactly like all those other mobile game ads, and it
Mhm.
it's perfectly fits like that kind of a script style, I suppose.
Mm. I I can see why they would, like, why initially people were trying to do that, but it's been done so many times that it's just, it doesn't stand out at this point. Like, you see an ad like that and you're like, okay, go on with my day, basically. I don't really care. Like, you have that one time it's done and it pops off really well. It's such a great advertising campaign. And then from there, everybody else starts to copy that. And I think that's also done in like the YouTube space as well. Like you have this one type of video that pops off, and then everybody is doing that like from then on. I get it from like if you're doing YouTube purely as a business, I can understand why you might want to jump on
Yeah.
those trends there, but it does it does feel like you're taking the enjoyment out of it if you're just not trying to put your own style into it or just doing the thing that is popular.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, in many ways, it is kind of sad because YouTube used to be really different compared to what it is now. Like
Mhm.
in general, it wasn't a business in a sense that, of course, it was a business pretty early on as well, but like it was more personal, definitely, in the sense that it was making YouTube videos back in the day wasn't really a routine for most people. They
Yeah.
just made them for fun without any, uh, they didn't keep things in mind such as, oh, I need to have an end card, I need to tell people to like and subscribe, I need to make the video at least 10 minutes long. People, nobody even thought about things like that. It was
Mm.
not a business, it was not a skill, it was just a medium that you can upload to a platform.
Mm-mm.
But now it's a job basically, or
Yep.
like a career path. So people treat YouTube as a career, and everybody does the basic YouTube 101 things. You have your thumbnail, put your red arrow on it, and things like that. Um, but also, it's kind of like sad in a sense that people kind of forget that they can step out of it. They don't have to do those things, but of course, their revenue will most likely take a hit if they do
Mm.
that. But I think some creators might not realize that they have, if like, some creators get burnt out from doing the same content for the sake of business over and over again. But I feel like a lot of them, instead of quitting, they'd be better off just taking the smaller revenue and making videos in however style they want. Like most of them can afford it, but of course, it's like once you hit some specific expectations for your YouTube viewership and income, I suppose it's kind of hard to like um, step down from it. I
Mm.
suppose, which is why a lot of people don't even consider it as an option. But this is one of the reasons why I'm already doing those uh, variety. Why I'm already making variety videos is
Mhm.
because if I establish the fact that my channel has videos for whatever I want to make them, or, I mean, whatever I want to make a video about, then like it's not going to be shocking. For example, if I don't know how many videos I have uploaded, but let's say instead of the 30 videos or so that I have, if they were all Japanese videos and then
Mhm.
suddenly I made some Linux video or something, then it's going to be kind of more shocking to those people.
Yep.
Or for even for myself, it's going to be like I already said with the renovation video, that if it's going to be the first step of the first video that's not a language learning video, then even I myself would have like more, I don't know, concern towards how people will receive that video, so I might not even make it. But
Mhm.
if I do that straight from the beginning, then it's I try to keep it balanced on purpose because of that.
I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with treating it like a job. Like there are certain people that sort of thrive in that way of approaching it. Like the way that I do it, I do 6 videos a week. I just there's a lot of things that I want to say, and I like to give myself a structure of when I'm doing stuff, because if I don't do that, I know things are not going to get done, and I'm going to make things much much worse for myself. Obviously, I could like cut back on the amount I'm doing, but no matter what I'm doing, I need to have some sort of structure. Otherwise, it's going to all fall apart. And I think when it comes to making something you want to make, it can be intimidating if you're in that middle range. Not if you're, right at the start where it doesn't really matter what you're not making money anyway, or if you're making millions of dollars a year. Like at that point, it doesn't matter what you do. You can just upload
Yeah.
reaction content for all it matters. And actually, that's a bad example because that does really well. You could upload vlogs for all it matters. You're loaded. You don't have to work for the rest of your life. But
Yeah.
that middle area where you've got something going, you've got this thing that you think you can turn into something. Or maybe you've just turned it into something, like you've just taken that step and you're like, I'm going to do this full time. Making any sort of switch then definitely would be incredibly intimidating. I'm in a good spot where I am a crazy person and I can talk about like this, Linux isn't a small subject, but relative to
Yeah.
doing variety content obviously is. But I am in this position where I really enjoy this topic, and even doing as many videos as I've done, I keep finding new things, and new people show up in the scene and are doing really cool things, and I'm in a spot where I am actually still enjoying it. Like I think I've got myself into this position now where I've sort of shifted what I was doing and now focusing more on the deep dives into various projects, bug reports, mailing lists, things like that. And I've got the thing that I enjoy. I don't remember where I was going with this. Something about trying out new things. That's where I was trying to take this.
No.
You know what? We'll just shift direction there. You seem to have like this enjoyment for trying out new things, not just on the channel. Like you're saying that you'd started trying out Go. Like that's a random hobby to pick up. Like of all the games you could try out, like Go. Like I know it was linked to the AI stuff you were doing, but
Yeah.
even so, you seem to have this interest in trying out new things, and it's one of those things that I've certainly been trying to pick back up myself, because when I was younger, I would try out a lot of new things, but now that I'm, in my mid-20s, I've sort of settled into the things that I like, and it it
Yeah.
does feel like I'm wasting a lot of time when I'm not trying out. There's a lot of cool things out there. Like, I don't know, I could pick up Go, I could try out archery, I could try out all of this stuff, and I don't know. There's something there. It's nice being in that comfortable place, but what makes you want to step out of that as much as you seem to do so?
Okay. I'm going to first talk a bit about the previous topic about the YouTube as a job thing.
Yeah.
I definitely agree a lot that I don't see anything wrong with doing YouTube as a job as well. Like, definitely not. In the sense that there are a lot of channels I watch that do YouTube as a job, and I like some of them. Okay, none of them actually, but like some of the big channels I like. Sometimes did daily uploads, like Japanese channels that I watch right now for immersion when I have time. But occasionally they don't have enough time or their videos take too long. But I like so they like take longer than one day to make a new video. But I definitely every day look forward to seeing a new video on them. And if they have like this schedule of daily uploads, I'd be really happy about it. So it can work really well in that sense as well. And as a job, there's nothing wrong with that as well. And like you said, about switching content when you're on the uprise is definitely scarier than when you're just getting started or when you're already established. Like you said that React content is something that might be a bit bad to do nowadays, but PewDiePie is still doing that. Pretty much he's been doing that for years now.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it's bad to do. I would say it's popping off more than ever. Like, the only thing that makes it bad is there are some creators that don't like it being done. But as for whether it does well on the platform, well, it
Nah.
very clearly does well. That's the reason everyone does it.
Yeah, and I suppose it's like, people like to complain about it. I mean, I suppose that's just the way things are, but I guess in like 2016 you had those like Jinx or whoever, like those first people who just watched content and didn't say anything and just reposted the videos basically. And before that, you had like the reply videos, the reply girls, and things like that.
Yep.
In like 2011 or something. But yeah, about trying new things. A lot of people say that to me, that I seem to like to try out new things, but when I think about that myself, I personally like never really thought about it like in that way. Like I personally don't, I haven't really even thought about like, oh, I should try out something new. What should I try out? Oh, okay, this looks interesting. I'll start looking into it. Personally, it's not like that for me at all. It's just like everything like happens naturally. I like randomly start getting interested in something, and it just it's all random basically. Well, it's all like tied together, but that's just how it works for me. Like let's say I started playing video games, and I started watching at YouTube. I kind of liked some specific videos. I kind of wanted to make them myself, so I started making videos. And then I had to decide what kind of a school I'm going to go to, and one of them was coding related. So I was like, I don't really do any coding, but I guess I'll look into it. And I started liking it, and then I started like learning coding by myself, just randomly, basically. And after that, I started looking into AI, and then from AI, I got interested in like data science and like even like some philosophical topics more. And then I decided to start making more YouTube videos again. And then at one point, I started learning Japanese as well. And from Japanese, I've like randomly, naturally became interested in a lot of different topics as well. Like if I wouldn't have started learning Japanese, I most likely would have not also like picked up Go at one point as well, because like the thing that made me start playing Go was actually like immersion, like watching the Hikaru no Go anime series, I suppose. And a lot of things like that. So basically the point is that I personally don't push myself to try out new things, like but instead it just comes up naturally, and I just start looking into it and start researching it more, start looking at YouTube videos and reading the internet about things like that. And that's how the interest grows. And there's usually always like another subset of hobbies and something inside that hobby, and that's just how it happens, I suppose. And there was something else I wanted to say, but I forgot what it was.
So it's sort of as you try out, well, you have this natural curiosity. So as you try out new things, because that's what you're going to do anyway, you notice that the thing you try out have these other things that are linked to it, and because you're sort of naturally curious, you want to go and, I guess, mess around with that. There's no like thought process to it being done. It's just you want to see if there's something there that is going to catch your attention, I guess, is one way to put
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's like even like gaming, for example. Like you're gaming, and then it's like you need a new mouse, so you look what kind of a mouse would be nice to buy, and then you start looking into like for the first time ever you discover that gaming mice exist, and then you
Yep.
start looking at reviews, and then you discover that mechanical keyboards exist, and then like I became like a keyboard enthusiast as well at one point, like like in 2015 or something, back when like or even 2000, like before that, like when it wasn't that popular. Well, most people still didn't know what mechanical keyboards were, basically. Like all the big channels were like only reviewing like gaming keyboards, like those Razer and Corsair ones, but nobody was into like customizing keyboards and stuff like that.
Yep.
But now it's like everywhere, basically. But I now remember the thing I wanted to say was that one thing you said about being comfortable within the things that you like doing already, like things that that you have established already. I guess one thing I had like that myself was like in terms of like, I suppose, like entertainment or video games. Like right now I haven't basically played any games for like over a few months, or like at least over a month, because
Mhm.
not because I don't want a game, but just I don't have time right now. But
Yeah.
uh, when I had the time, there are thousands of games I could choose to play, and there are some that I'm curious about, such as I would kind of one day like to finish the Half-Life series. I suppose I finished the first game, but I still haven't played the second one, and I just want to see what it's all about. Why people like it that much. I
And
like the first one.
and instead you play 6 hours of RuneScape.
No, actually, it's League, so it's
Ah,
universe.
right now
uh,
my game is Final Fantasy 14, and that whenever I'm like, hey, I don't know what game to play, let's just go play some more 14. Why not? Might as well. It's an
yeah,
MMO. The problem with an MMO and sort of any sort of online game is there's always something you can do. It's like, hey, I could do one more league match. I could do
yeah,
one more quest. I could do. I could. I don't know. Fletch 1,000 more bows.
yeah. And like the thing is that with League, it's that well, I haven't played it for a month, over a
Mhm,
month, like I said, but um, I I mean, I had like recently, or like some seasons I didn't play at all, but
mhm,
some seasons I have like 400 or 500 games, and it's quite a lot of hours, at
mm,
least like 200 or 300 hours or something. And if I'm being entirely honest, I most of the time I actually like really enjoy that game, at least in terms of like uh, you know, it's at least stimulating
mhm.
in the sense that I might be like I'm definitely never bored when I play the game
Right.
in that sense. But so I could basically just start playing it right now, and I'd most likely like get quote unquote addicted again in the sense that I just want to play more.
Mhm,
Of course, I like don't play like over 5 games a day or even over 3 games a day anymore. But um, the thing is that even when it is really enjoyable for me, it's just like if I never stop playing it, then I will never see those other games. Like I said,
right.
it's
Right.
like so then it's like sure I could play a game of League and enjoy it most likely, and but if I do that, I'm never going to find out anything else
Mhm,
like what what other games have to offer. And you know like I said before, I find new things randomly by chance or like naturally just by exploring other things. It's like it just happens
mhm,
over time. And if I keep playing League, I mean, I most likely won't be discovering anything new. I might, but it's less likely if compared to if I tried out some other game. For example, actually, um, the same thing applied to when I played Half-Life 1. I played
mm,
Half-Life 1 and I got kind of curious about uh, the engine. It's the
mm.
I forgot what the
Source
Half-Life
engine.
1 engine was called. No, no, that was Half-Life 2.
Oh,
Half-Life
right.
1 was
What's the Half-Life engine
um,
then?
what was it called?
Now we're both
It
gonna
was
look it up.
like Cold Source, I guess.
Ah.
Cold SRC.
Yep. Yep.
And it was like it says, it's a heavily modified version of the Quake engine.
Right.
And
Yep.
Quake, and there are some other games that I like that also use the Quake engine, such as American McGee's Alice, which is
Mhm.
like a game, an old game that also uses the Quake engine. And Quake 2 is one of the earliest games that I remember playing myself. And thanks to that, I also like started, reading the Wikipedia article about it. And, I also tried out Quake 2 once again. And a lot of the things like related to that gave me a lot of inspiration to make my own game and stuff like that as
Mm.
well. So just by playing Half-Life 1 instead of League, it already went to the point where I almost started making my own game. Well, I did start doing game development, but I game development is one of those things that I really want to do, but I just it's so time consuming and such a big endeavor that I still haven't like settled on some big project that I'd be making, because I already know it's going to take like thousands of hours if I do that, and
Yeah,
I don't have the time right now. Maybe in 3 years or something I can, but not right now.
I have a bit of experience doing mobile game dev, just some little
Oh,
indie stuff, but
interesting.
yeah, it's game dev is one of those things that is purely passion driven. If you are not passionate about making a game, you are not making a game. Like, you can be a code monkey at a big company, that can work.
Yeah.
But if you want to do something yourself, you need to love the art, because
Yep.
there is so much. You said it right. Like, there is so much time you need to put into a game, and it's just like with any other sort of art, like whether it's music, whether it's drawing, whether it's anything else, you can spend a near infinite amount of time working on a single project if you really want to.
Yeah.
That
Pretty much.
I, the other thing, there has to be a point where you realize that it's done, but it's hard to realize when something's done when you know you can make it better.
Yeah. You have to decide, like, well, it's kind of interesting in a way, because like there's this other game that
Mm.
I discovered through immersion. Once again, learning Japanese. Like a lot of things I'm discovering through learning Japanese, actually. Um, which is, what was it called? It's the same. It was the by the same creator who made the Stanley's Parable.
Um,
Uh,
I didn't know you made other games.
uh, what was it called? Let
Um,
me see. It was the Beginner's Guide.
oh
So I'm not sure if you heard about it.
no, I've definitely heard of it.
Okay. Yeah, I watched like a let's play of it basically in Japanese, and it's basically like one of the things. What I wanted to mention is that the quote unquote okay, the game has like a lot of unfinished game projects in it,
Mm.
basically, that the narrator basically showcases to you.
Yep.
And one of the things that he discussed was that the games that were showcased, that they were never uh, meant to be shown to others. Basically, they were
Mm.
made for the um, creator's own satisfaction. Basically, like just like, imagine drawing a picture just for yourself. Like you're not
Mm.
going to be showing it to anyone. And one of the things they discussed were like, should games be made for others, or like the narrator said that he said that games should be made for others, and you should share it with others. But
Mm.
the quote unquote creator of the game, it's kind of hard to creator of the game inside the game
Mm.
basically said that um no, he's not going to do that. And well, so my point is basically just that, I mean, you don't have to release a game. You can just work for it forever and just make it for yourself. I mean, that's
Mm.
totally fine as well. But if you want to make a project that you want to release to the world, then yeah, you have to decide some kind of a stopping point. I mean, you can always okay, I guess a single player game you should probably release when it's done.
Mm.
But if it comes to a multiplayer game, you can always just um keep making updates for it, or if it's something like Minecraft.
Mm.
But the thing about games is that well, this is about everything, I suppose, but especially with games, is that, like you said, it's really passion driven, in the sense that I made a video about game development as well, which basically talked about why I find it difficult, in the
Mm.
sense that if you make a game, you may spend over 3,000 hours on it or something, or even more. And it's highly likely that you won't sell a single copy of it, or that you won't get anyone to even play it seriously. And so if you're not passionate about the project itself, in the sense that you just wanted to bring something to life, then you're going to be probably extremely disappointed with the fact that you spent so much time, so much effort, so much energy on making this project, this game, and you literally got zero reward for it.
Mm.
And a lot of people start realizing that halfway through the project. They're like 1,500 hours in, and then suddenly they're like, oh, okay, this game kind of sucks. Most likely nobody will want to play it. It's kind of boring, and I've spent so much time on it already. And then they start getting burnt out. They
Mm.
got, and a lot of games have probably have thousands of hours spent on them but never released, basically because it's you still have to spend a lot of time on it, so they just quit instead of quote unquote wasting that time to finish it.
The reason why I brought up spending basically a near infinite amount of time on a single project is there comes a point where you're not like if what you're doing is trying to express yourself through the games or trying to learn new things about programming, learn new things about game design, once you've got something to like that 98% complete point, at
Yeah,
that point you're basically just doing optimizations and sort of improving the way the game plays. You're not really experiencing these new fundamental things you might want to make. Like if you get this project mostly done, like let's say you're not planning to release your games, you just get the game mostly done, and then you're like, hey,
yeah,
I want to try out making a racing game now. I want to try out making a puzzle game. Let's try out making a platformer. You can sort of, if you don't spend all this time trying to perfect a game that you're never going to release, you can certainly try out a lot more things. Like this is the same point you'll bring up about
yeah,
League. Like you could just keep playing more and more League, or you could try out other games. Like there are other things out there. Maybe it's worth giving those a shot as well.
yeah, definitely. Like, uh, in terms of projects, I have experience of working on a project for thousands of hours, like a coding project. I'm
Yep.
not going to talk about it, but it's basically the the saying I like, which is that the 99%, the next 1% is the 99% in terms of like time investment. It's
Yep.
really true when it comes to any project. And I also have some other projects before that I worked on at least 100 hours or something, like a web development
Hmm.
project. And at one point, uh, I made it with another person together, and that other person like got demotivated and kind of stopped working on it.
Yep.
And then eventually I stopped working on it as well because of that. But now I'm like, when I look back at it, it's like I'm kind of glad I didn't continue because that project was never going to go anywhere anyway.
Hmm.
So if I never stopped on it, I might as well have spent the same like thousands of hours on fleshing it out and stuff, and then just getting no reward for it basically. If I never, but if I stopped like I did,
Hmm.
then I discovered other projects and things I could work on. But
Mm.
who knows? Maybe it would have became a success or something. Who knows?
Well,
Kind of doubt it though.
well, a lot of games that get released, a lot of projects that come out, most of them don't do that. Like if you want to feel better about it, most of them don't do well. So maybe you made the right choice. Like only that
Yeah,
very small percentage will actually make it anywhere. But I
yeah,
don't necessarily think like this is back to the passion thing. Like there's a lot of people that say, for example, paint, and a lot of people that draw, a lot of people that do music that never have any plans to make money from it. They do it because they
yeah,
enjoy it. But when it comes to game development, I guess because it's tied so closely to being a software developer, there's sort of that weird expectation you have a lot of people might have going into it that this is something you're going to make money from. But if you treat it the same way as you would, you know, going out and playing golf or learning Go or anything else like that, I think if you're not planning to take it as a career, that's a much a much healthier, a much more sane way to approach it.
yeah. I think the reason why game dev is so um, you know, quote unquote money focused.
Hmm.
It's not really money focused, but just the discussion related to game development
Yep.
is talking about money a lot. Um, is well, one reason is like you said, it's a software development project. The same skills could be used to earn money through in a company, basically.
Mm-mm.
And the other thing is that game development projects just take so much time to
Mm.
complete. Basically, if you're an artist, let's say you paint a picture, you might be done in 10 minutes, you might be done in 200 hours, but
Yep.
in term, like, most paintings will take, like, I don't know, 10 hours, I assume, for like most
Sure.
artists, in terms of like commissions and stuff like that,
Yep. Yep.
or less. And I guess learning a skill like an instrument or playing Go, it's like a kind of a linear thing. Like, you don't have to finish anything to get better. You just,
Mm.
you have to do the process, basically. But with game development, it's like, um, the quote unquote only place where you can show something you've made is when it's done.
Mm.
Basically, if the game is not finished, it might not function properly. It won't be the proper experience. It won't be as enjoyable, not as fun. It won't be the experience that you imagined in your
Mm.
head. So it's like, it's really hard to express yourself to the extent that you would like to if you don't
Mm.
spend a lot of time on the game. And because you have to spend so much time on the game as well, um, it's a full-time job. So you need to find the time for that game development somewhere, or you need to make time for it. So you might quit your job to do
Mm-hmm.
full-time game development, but if you do that, you need to pay the bills somehow as well.
Yep.
And I think that's where it roots the discussions around being successful in game development.
Thinking further on it, I guess the other thing with game dev is it's not just one skill you need. Like, if you're gonna pick up the guitar,
Yeah.
picking up the guitar, it's a very like being good at the guitar is very difficult, and there are amazing guitarists out there, but it's a lot easier than being a programmer, an artist, a musician, and all of these other things at the same time.
Yeah, it's like, you might need to be good at the guitar to
Mhm.
make a game.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if you want like a really nice guitar soundtrack or something. And I suppose, like, yeah, you need to be like, if you want to do everything yourself, you yeah, another thing is as well that, uh, most people can't do everything themselves
Mhm.
to the extent that they would like to, which is why they also have to spend money to make their
Yeah.
game, which is also the um, they want a return on their investment, because most people probably won't spend $10,000 to make a game just for themselves.
Well, you either
Um,
spend money or you cobble together free assets, which might not
yeah,
give you the game that you want to see at the end.
yeah, definitely. Like, I personally, for example, people say that the Unity store has all these free assets and
Mhm.
whatnot, but like, I can like instantly tell when a game is made in Unity. And like, a lot of indie games, they have those low poly
Mhm.
textures and like things like that. It's like, they used to be like pretty nice when they first started appearing, but now it's like, it's so overdone that it's like instantly puts me off,
Mhm.
basically, now. And yeah, it's not just that you need those individual skills for game development potentially, but you also, you know depending on your goals, you might also need to be a really good designer in terms of
Mhm.
like game design, in terms of like, user experience, in terms of like, just perhaps even writing a story,
Yeah.
a story that's actually enjoyable. And then you also need to manage all of those things, and manage your time, and be consistent, and be disciplined, and you know put the time into it. And so it is a really difficult endeavor to make a video game, compared to even making a website. In terms of like, of course, you might need a lot of skills for making a website as well, but
Mhm.
generally speaking, in terms of a website, you most likely won't need to do anything related to audio, for
Yeah.
example, and things like that.
One of the things you mentioned, this is going way back, back to when you were mentioning about playing League. Um, one of the things you mentioned was about when you're playing League, at you're engaged in the experience. You're enjoying the experience. You're at least engaged. I don't know if you're enjoying it. It's
Yeah,
League. You may not be enjoying
yeah,
everything, but you're at least engaged by the experience, and you're not bored
yeah,
by it. That's one of the things that I have definitely tried to avoid, especially as we've gotten older and time becomes more valuable. You have actual things you have to do in your life, not just wake up
Yeah.
and play video games all day.
Oh man, I want to do that so bad.
Yeah, I know the feeling. That's what my weekends are for. But there was like, I'm sure you've had the same thing. Like back when I was super into RuneScape, for example, I would play like 8-9 hours a day fletching, or I got fishing. Sorry, 99 cooking and free to play. Don't do this. Bad idea.
Wow. Damn.
But I wasn't enjoying most of that experience. Nowadays, if I'm not enjoying something, I've realized my time is just, it's too valuable to waste on things that you're not enjoying. Like there are
Yeah.
so many cool things out there you could be experiencing. Whether it's learning a language or playing games or working out or anything else you want to do. I don't one thing I don't agree with is the people that say that playing video games is inherently a waste of time. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think what's a waste of
Yeah.
time is if it gets in the way of your actual like real life things you have to do, like you're skipping work to play games. But if you're not enjoying the time, I think that's when you're really wasting it. Time that you're like enjoying wasting is not time wasted. There's a
Yeah.
time and a place for that.
Yeah, and I would also go as far as to say that in some ways, playing video games can be an extremely good use of time in the sense that um, if you need to rest,
Hmm.
like if you need to um, it's genuinely a skill to know how to rest. Basically, it's like
Yep, I know
uh,
the feeling.
yeah, definitely, you can basically refresh yourself more effectively if you do something that doesn't require like a lot of willpower, for
Hmm.
example. So if you're spending like um, a lot of effort, for example, let's say I really want to play League and I'm
Hmm.
really tired of work and my work is done, and now I have like 1 hour before sleep or
Yep.
something, and I'm really tired. And so what if I really want to play League? If I decide not to play League because I think it's a waste of time, I might do something else. But when I do something else, I also might not get as rested
Hmm.
because I don't enjoy it as much. So I have to use some willpower just to not play League,
Hmm.
basically. And the other thing is also that if you consider things like that a waste of time, like resting a waste of time, then if you end up doing those things anyway, like let's say I don't want to play League, I think League is bad for me, but I end up playing League anyway, then I'm like, I'm not even enjoying the experience because I get cognitive dissonance from it,
Hmm.
and then I'm not even getting the benefit of resting basically from it. And yeah, resting is a skill in the sense that I don't do weekends either because like um first of all, I do Anki and sentence mining every day. I can't just take a break from Anki.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and the other thing is just that like I don't know. I just do whatever I want, basically, in the
Hmm.
sense that I don't have a schedule or anything. Like I just do everything whenever I feel like it. But I just have certain things I need to get done, so I just work on them whenever I feel it's appropriate. But at least in terms of YouTube, I still try to get at least one video out every
Hmm.
month. But sometimes, like the video just takes so long that I can't do it within 1 month, which is actually one of the things I wanted to say before. It's like
Hmm.
I did notice that you have like almost daily uploads,
Almost, yes.
and yeah, and like things like that are kind of impressive to me because like I can't. I might work on a video every day. I just can't get it out like
Yeah.
without it taking like nearly a month every time, basically.
Well, you do a lot more in the way of editing than I do. I base like most of my time is spent during the research phase. So I will
I
spend a
see.
couple of hours doing that. The recording and editing takes at most an hour and a half. Like that's not at all a big deal for me. It's especially for like, I don't know, I'm going and breaking down some like big news topic happening in the Linux space. Like that's where my bulk of time is being spent. I honestly I respect anyone who puts a lot of time into editing. Like, editing is the thing that the second that I have enough money to pay someone to edit my videos is I'm going to be paying someone to edit my videos. I don't like editing. That's why I don't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I see. Well, like I guess it takes you around an hour and hour and a half, depending on the video, to edit it and record it, I suppose. But it usually takes me an hour and a half or more to record 3 minutes of voice lines
Yeah.
for my video. Like when I speak like this, like I am right now, it's not going to be acceptable for the video for the most part, most of the time. Like I speak really differently in my videos, and I do so many retakes. Like sometimes I have probably sentences which I have retaken over 50 times or something. Like it's genuinely like
A problem?
one of the biggest problems for making a video for me is just like having to do the voice lines. It's
Yeah.
often like I don't even like the next thing I have to do in the video is the voice lines, and it's like I don't even want to think about it because I know it's going to be so difficult and like hard in the sense that I can't even do it all the time. I have to. I can't do it in the morning because my voice sounds completely different in the morning. It sounds like extremely deep, and my mouth has to be warmed up, or I have a really uh, I start like my I start speaking like this basically, and the muscles of my tongue and stuff, they just don't move properly. So I just like some words don't sound coherent and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like I hate voice lines basically. They're hard to do, but I'm luckily getting a bit better at them. But it's most likely still going to be like 3 minutes of voice lines equals at least 1 hour of work. And then it's like editing is also like 1 minute of like one day of work is like 1 minute of video for me often. Like if I get 3 minutes done in one day, that's like huge. That's like
Yo.
a really productive day. And I also really hate video editing. Like I really hate it because not because I don't like the art of video editing, but I
Right.
really like that. But the reason I hate it is because it's just video editing. Um, well, first of all, there is a lot of like boilerplate which you have to do
Yeah.
in the sense that a lot of like menial labor, basically things that you have to do over and over and over again that you can't properly automate or stuff like that. And then the other thing is just like software and buffer, like having to wait for lag to go away and rendering and things like that. It takes so much time and energy if I make a tiny change and then I have to wait like 2 minutes just to preview a 5-second clip in real time. And I honestly think if I had zero lag when video editing, I would be done with videos so much faster, and they would also be so much better because often I can't even tell what the video looks like unless I render it out and see the final result. Because if I'm working with proxy files, then the resolution is much smaller, and if the video is laggy, then I might not see every frame of the transition and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just awful in the sense that I just wish that I could edit with zero lag,
For
no
anyone
matter how
listening,
many
he's
effects.
asking for a better GPU. What are you running
Honestly,
right
I don't
now?
even know. I have the 980 Ti
Oh, yeah,
with six
okay.
gigs of RAM, with DRAM. I mean, yeah,
It's getting a bit
it's
old,
kind of
isn't
old.
it? It was.
Yeah.
Did you get it when it was like the 980 was the current tier?
No, I got it in January. I think January of 2018 or something like that. I got it secondhand for 300 euros at the time, secondhand. The reason I got it was because of AI. Basically, I wanted to do machine learning with it, so I got an NVIDIA card with 6 gigs of DRAM, and
Yep.
I'm still using that. So yeah, one thing I could do is just upgrade my PC, which costs money.
Yeah.
But the issue is that I think even the best computers can't do a lot of things on video editing without any lag, because
Mhm.
often the issue isn't the hardware, it's the software.
Yep. Yep.
Like DaVinci Resolve is like the thing about DaVinci Resolve is that it's it's probably the best software and also the worst software I've ever used. In the sense that it's extremely hyped right
Mhm.
now. The reason it's so hyped is because um, content creators in the video editing space, they it's content for them to make
Mhm.
videos about DaVinci Resolve, because it's not Adobe. Everyone was making videos about
Yep.
Adobe and Final Cut before. And the other reason why is because they are selling courses for DaVinci
Ah.
Resolve, and they want to convince you to learn DaVinci Resolve so
Mhm.
they could sell you courses. For example, there was this one video that was uploaded like a bit over a month ago, which was amazingly made, and it was like, why I'm quitting DaVinci Resolve and you should as well. And it's
Mhm.
like, it's really well made, and basically it's just like making DaVinci Resolve sound like this godlike software that it has zero flaws, and
Mhm.
Adobe is like terrible compared to it. And maybe that is his experience, but um, he's also selling an $800 course to learn DaVinci Resolve, so
I
that's kind of
see.
suspicious.
Yeah.
And in my experience, it's like DaVinci Resolve is performant in many ways, but it also the fusion
Mhm.
page is like extremely I don't want to say unoptimized, because
Mhm.
maybe it is optimized. I don't know how it works internally, but it's not definitely as performant as is After Effects in many of the cases that I want to use my software for. Basically,
Mhm.
it's like, and even with really expensive hardware, 4K 60 FPS, or even just 4K 24 FPS, like motion graphics in
Mhm.
DaVinci Resolve uh, Fusion is extremely unoptimized, to the extent that, let's say you have a color that you want to change. You want to change the color of the text and then check an animation basically after that. So you want to see 5 seconds of the video.
Mhm.
You want to change the color and then see 5 seconds of the video again. Well, with like a pretty powerful computer, you're most likely going to need to wait at least 5 minutes before you can see the color change smoothly. And it's like it's just awful. Like if I could, I think I'd still be using After Effects if I could,
Mhm.
because um, I mean I can just use the pirated version of Adobe, but like
If
I don't
Adobe
want to like
he didn't say that. No one
yeah
pirates Adobe products. No one's ever done that.
yeah no nobody's ever done that.
How much?
Um, but like then it's also the I don't want to rely on a piece of software that you know I don't I can't access all the time, in the sense
Yeah.
that I'd have to pirate it if I actually wanted to use it, and I don't want to rely on that, because you know like I said in the Linux video, I might, if I keep on using it for 10 years to come, I might one day I still might need to buy it, and
Mhm.
then who knows how expensive it gets at that point as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I didn't realize how much After Effects was. It's $80 in my currency. That's a lot of
wow,
money. Jeez,
that's $80 a month to those who
yeah,
don't know.
yeah, a month, man. I look. I can see why people are trying to move away from Adobe. I get it. It makes sense. But also, if
Yeah,
you
like
mate, if you're selling me an $800 course, like your motives are not clean here. Like, at least be
yeah.
upfront by with what we're doing here. Like, if you like DaVinci and you want to sell a course, fine. But you're also selling a course.
Yeah, it's like I I think Adobe in general, like at least After Effects, like
Mhm.
of course every video editing software has issues, all of them. There's not a single perfect one. I think it's because it's just such a difficult thing to create
Yep, yep.
software for. And like of course Adobe has its problems. Premiere perhaps especially. I made one video with Premiere, the first episode, and I had a few issues, but I definitely have way more issues with DaVinci Resolve than I have with Premiere. DaVinci
Mhm.
Resolve is the buggiest software I've ever used, in the sense that, in terms of like programs of such scale, in the sense that if I use a program, let's say Adobe After Effects or Premiere or Photoshop or GIMP even, or Unity or
Yeah.
whatever, I generally expect them to, rarely have bugs. I don't expect them to have bugs all the time, in the sense that even with Sony Vegas and stuff, occasionally you do have a bug, an issue, or like some. Um, but generally speaking, all the fundamental things work perfectly fine. But with DaVinci Resolve, it's like it does work really well 99% of the time, but there are some fundamental things that are just literally broken, and there are like tens of forum threads about it since like 2000, I don't know, 15, I don't know when it came out, and it still hasn't been fixed. So for example, if you want to zoom in and also move the position of the camera, let's say you want to zoom into the right angle, right side of the screen, and you can do that. But what if you want to put like the keyframe smoothing, basically, so that it's not linear, but it starts slowly and then smoothly
Yeah.
stops the zooming? If you do that in DaVinci Resolve, in the edit page, then what happens is that it doesn't like, it zooms into the corner, but the path of the camera starts like wobbling around. It's like it doesn't zoom there linearly, but it just moves it to the left a bit, moves it to the right a bit, moves it back to the left, and then finally reaches the point where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Like, it's just insane. Like, it's like, I can't believe that something so basic and fundamental has not been fixed. And it happens even with like the dynamic zoom feature, which basically is supposed to do that automatically. And even with like another effect that does it, but it doesn't happen in Fusion. But the issue with Fusion is that it's so laggy for me that I like, if I want to zoom into like 5 different places with smoothing, I can't edit that because it's going to take me 2 hours because it's so laggy for me, even with proxies. That's the reason I used Premiere Pro for the first episode, because I had a section where I, zoomed in for like the faucets, the ceiling lamps, and stuff like that. I couldn't do that in DaVinci Resolve because the zooming with keyframe smoothing was buggy and so laggy in Fusion. And the other thing about Fusion is that for some reason, sometimes it's just like, if the final output in the Fusion page and the edit page and the final render are not the same, for some reason it gets bugged when it comes out of Fusion. And like, I have to find some workaround to get around that bug. And like, things like that, yes, I do like video editing, but things like that are the daily reality of trying to do video editing, and it's just driving me like, it's just, I hate I can just say I hate video editing because of that, but I want to do it still, so it's kind of sad.
Well, speaking of bugs, I guess that leads us directly into the Linux challenge you did.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting you to do a Linux challenge yourself, but it was honestly, I felt it was a great video. I felt like you addressed a lot of the.
Thank you.
I felt like you addressed a lot of things in a really fair way. Like when LTT did theirs, like that was the meta to jump on that and talk about that for like a couple of weeks. But I think what you did with yours is, when you did have these problems you had, like you did have legitimate problems, you at least like looked into them rather than just say Linux bad. Like, regardless of what it is, like video editing, for example, since we were on that, like you tried out, I don't know why you tried it out, but you tried out Kden Live.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the correct response to trying out Kden Live. I use Kden Live on a daily basis. It's terrible.
Rip.
But there's one thing better. It's Olive. It's very alpha, and it's kind of crashy sometimes. And the newer version has a memory leak that makes
Rip.
it use 32 gigs of RAM rendering an 8-minute video. So I can't use that. But just let people know why you did a Linux challenge in the first place. Like, the start of the video, you were having some interesting problems. That's for sure with Windows.
Yeah, honestly, so far the issues that I had with Windows, like it's basically the issues I had were almost all related to Explorer.exe, that like the basically, which is like basically the desktop environment of Windows.
Mhm.
Um, and it was like buggy for some reason. Like when I couldn't like open the calculator. When I opened the calculator, it was unresponsive for like a minute, and I couldn't like alt tab. I couldn't switch between like the tabs from the taskbar and stuff like that. Other
Mhm.
programs still worked fine. For example, if I had a browser on my second monitor, I could still use it for
Mm.
and but I couldn't just alt tab or do things like that. And it's actually fixed now.
Oh, that's
I
good.
don't know, I don't know why, but if I reinstalled the Microsoft Store with some PowerShell command, it just fixed
Oh.
itself. It's like somehow the Microsoft Store is just so ingrained into Windows 10 that it's like controls everything basically.
Mm.
And I don't know, it just broke somehow. But so far, I haven't had a single person who said that they've had the same issue with Windows, with the calculator and stuff. And I actually believe that, in the sense that I also haven't had issues like that with Windows myself. But the issue that I do have constantly is um, the language, the keyboard layouts. For
Mhm.
some reason, Windows keeps adding like random keyboard layouts to my typing. I assume it's like trying to add some keyboard layouts based on the program I'm using or something,
Mhm.
and it doesn't add like some Polish or something like that randomly. It always adds like the layout I already have, but um, like slightly different. For example, it had it like if I have English, if I have, for example, I have the Japanese and Estonian layout, but it often adds the English layout for some reason into the list as well. So I have to like click multiple times to get the language I want.
Mhm.
That's the constant issue. Right now, I don't have it, but it's most likely going to come back eventually. Um, but the other thing is that, you know, I'm happy with Windows in terms of usability, but
Mhm.
uh, yeah, when I'm reinstalling it and stuff, it's just like it has all those trackers and stuff. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm too hardcore about privacy and things like that, um, but I would like to minimize it to the
Mhm.
best of my ability. So, like, I usually click reject on
Mm.
on cookies and stuff like that, but um, it just makes me appreciate. I basically, the conclusion in the intro was that I just things like tracking and whatnot and data collection have made me appreciate source software and free software
Yep.
more than I used to, because before I didn't see it as such a big issue as I do now.
Mhm.
And the other thing about it was that it was the video editing stuff. Adobe going subscription based and being so incredibly expensive that
Mhm.
unless I'm, earning thousands a month by doing multimedia stuff, it's not going to be rational for me to
Mhm.
uh, purchase their subscription. Um, and basically, there aren't a lot of good other um, video editing there aren't that many good video editing programs out there that aren't Adobe. Luckily, DaVinci Resolve is acceptable and in some
Unless
ways
you're on
better than
Linux.
Adobe. Yeah. Uh, so I am able to use something that isn't Adobe, but like if there was an open source program, a open source video editor that um, was as good as is Adobe software, then
Mhm.
those issues wouldn't happen. It would still be free, and it would be great. But so that was one of the reasons why I was interested in trying Linux, and the reason I also tried Gaiden Live. Um, just in case, if I
Just in
might ever
case.
need to go for an open source video editor, so I could try one.
Mhm.
Um, and the reason I didn't stick with it is because I had some issues with it straight away. And like I said before, video editing, I hate it in the sense that I'm always having issues with the software,
Mhm.
and I just don't want it to get any worse than it already is. And I want to be able to do everything I want to do in
Mhm.
terms of the functionality of the program. If there's something that I'm limited by, I can't use that program because I can't, do my quote unquote art form of video editing.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, a lot of people also, for some reason, okay, I know why, but a lot of people say that for in terms of Linux video editing, it's like, why are you using DaVinci Resolve when you can just use Blender? And like,
I've got a video
uh,
on Blender's video editor. That's a fun video.
yeah,
You
like
would have
the thing
thought.
is that if you have experienced if you're experienced in video editing or like professional video editing or stuff like that, then
Mhm.
it's like then you wouldn't just recommend it um, so lightly, in the sense that sure, I could definitely make videos in Blender, but
Mhm.
um, can I make the type of videos that I'm making right now? And if I can, is the experience of making those videos going to be as smooth as is with DaVinci Resolve or Adobe or Sony Vegas? Because um, like I said, a lot of time in terms of making videos goes into dealing with the software itself rather than um, performing actions that create the effects or whatever.
Yep.
So that's why I find it a bit sad when, okay, not sad, it's just that people who blindly recommend Blender as a proper substitute for high end video editing probably just aren't that experienced with video editing. But I'm actually surprised that Blender is a video editor as well, in the sense that the first time I heard somebody suggest Blender as a video editor, I thought it was a joke because I thought Blender was a 3D program only, but I guess it's some media suite or something.
Yeah. It used to have a game engine in it, actually. They got
Yeah,
rid of that one.
yeah. And one more thing about the reason I wanted to use Linux is because, um, I've already used Linux in the past, like
Mhm.
played around with it, and I used it at work because, um, you know, for coding and stuff. But
Yeah.
the first time okay, not the first time. The first time I installed Linux for my not even that time. At one point I needed to use Linux
Mhm.
because I needed to use it for AI stuff. Basically, you couldn't do certain things in Windows.
Mhm.
Um, but then you had TensorFlow and PyTorch and things like that with the CUDA support all came to Windows as well on
Yeah.
NVIDIA.
Well, nowadays you also have
Um,
WSL if you need Linux.
yeah, like with WVSL, VSL, you couldn't do it in the first version, but now
Mhm.
it's actually VSL2, and I think there you can use CUDA
Mhm.
for AI stuff as well. Before you couldn't. So yeah, I basically, in terms of functionality of the things I'm doing, I don't actually need to use Linux like I needed to use it before.
Mhm.
Before I actually had like a reason to use it, because otherwise I just couldn't do certain things. But in terms of like work, but
Mhm.
the reason I also wanted to try it was because I think it's just kind of fun, in the sense that it is a hobby, in the sense that customizing your desktop and trying to get things working on a free operating system and stuff like that, it is fun. It's um, something new and exciting, and out of thing it's like it's like there's a lot to try and look
Mhm.
forward to on Linux. But on Windows or Mac OS, you know for me they are all perfectly fine, but
Mhm.
it's just like it is what it is. And
It's what it is.
like there's nothing new and exciting unless there's like a really big new update.
Yeah. There was something I was gonna say. Oh right, back Hayden Live. There's one thing I don't know if you noticed about it, but there's a big thing that makes it very annoying for video editing. Do you want to know what that thing
Uh,
is? Doesn't have doesn't have GPU rendering. Doesn't use the
uh,
GPU at all.
yeah, yeah. Like things like that are so important
Hmm.
in like, especially if you start dealing with effects and like
Yeah.
4K 60 FPS footage and stuff like that. It's like video editing is truly in that sad space, in the sense that, and luckily I don't have it that badly, but
Hmm.
if you also use like cameras like which have proprietary codecs or
Yeah.
proprietary
Yeah.
hardware that need drivers, then you just generally speaking, there are cases where you just genuinely cannot use Linux because there is no support for it. It's
Hmm.
just, of course, you could sacrifice all that, but for some people, they can do that. They don't mind doing that, but for other people, they have to do it as their job. So
Hmm.
it's not a choice. Or for someone like me, um, I put a lot of like priority on making the video come out the way I want it to. So I like the reason I even learned a different video editing software instead of Sony Vegas, which I was really familiar with and
Hmm.
liked using, is because I couldn't do everything in it. I couldn't do specific effects and stuff like that because it just is limited. And sure, I could make my videos in Kden Live as well. I mean, I got really far in video editing in Windows Movie Maker, which is just like a single layered,
Hmm.
very simple video editor. But it's just like, if there is something I want to do, then and I can't do it, then it's just like, it's like, imagine if somebody wants to paint a picture but they can't use a color that they really want to use.
Hmm.
It's kind of like disappointing.
I think the issue a lot of people have is they like. I think what you should be doing is use whatever you think is the best tool for the job. If Windows is what's
Yeah.
going to be that best tool, use Windows. If macOS is going to be the best tool, use that. If Sony Vegas is the best tool, go ahead with that. Hayden Live, DaVinci Resolve, whatever it is that is the best tool for the job, go with that. I think a lot of people they tie their personality up in whatever they're using. And this is especially true for Linux. Like, there's a
Yeah.
thing about you're a Linux user. This is you've got to make sure that people know that you're using Linux. It's not just like no one like walk. I guess maybe Apple people will be like, I
Yeah.
have every Apple device ever made. Like, if that's your thing, you're just as bad. But there's a thing with being in Linux, especially because a lot of people look at using like free and open source software as like a morality thing. Like, it's a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
good thing. Like, you should be doing this. It makes you a
Yes.
better person. Everybody should be doing this as well because this will make the world better. But
Yeah.
I just honestly, I feel like some people just need to go out and touch some grass.
Well, yeah, it's like I said, like I do value it,
Mhm.
and I think there is value
Oh,
in
there's definitely
having.
value in it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I
it's I mean, I wanted to say that there is value in having those extreme hardcore
mm.
people that, because even if they are annoying, occasionally, they might be the people who make the most impact.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, it's like a lot of people do tie their identity with Linux. Um, and one of the reasons why is, like I said, it is a hobby, it is
Mhm.
fun, and it's, you have your own like, uh, forums and YouTube communities with surrounding Linux and stuff like that. I mean, nobody says using Windows is my hobby. Like, no, nobody says that. But using Linux is my hobby can make sense,
Mhm.
if somebody says that. Um, but yeah, like you said, it's like it's a hobby, and the activist aspect of it, like,
Mhm.
it does get people riled up a lot. If something negative is said about Linux, it's actually the Linux video is by far the most disliked video in terms of like percentages on my channel.
Do you care to
It's
say
okay.
how many dislikes she got? Because we can't see him anymore.
Oh yeah, I don't know how many Oh, okay, I can see it. Okay, 256 dislikes,
That's
which isn't a
honestly
lot.
pretty good. I was expecting way worse.
Yeah, no, it's like totally fine. I don't mind it, but it's
Mhm.
like, The likes versus dislikes, it's 96.8% liked, which is fine, I guess. But
That's
like,
a slight worry. If you 96%, like that's just a regular video for me.
yeah, but like, I don't have a single like, I don't like mean to flex with it or anything.
Mm.
I don't care, but it's like I don't have a single video on my channel that's under 99% other than
Yeah.
the Linux video.
Yeah.
And it's also like it also has by far the most comments per view.
Mm-hmm.
And it has so many, it has 1,500 comments right now with 130k views. And wow, the comments have been really interesting in the sense that, I kind of expected this, because when I was making this video, I was looking for background footage and stuff, and I was looking at Linux videos, and I usually do look at the comments of videos I watch, and yeah, I saw that there are some interesting comments on a lot of Linux videos that I watched,
I was
and
waiting
so I
for
got
that.
a lot of those myself as well. But interestingly, there are hundreds of comments that are basically the same thing, but in different categories.
Mm.
So like, I have at least 100 people who told me to use Fedora 36. I have at least 100 people who said that these issues only happen for you. Nobody else
Yup.
experiences those. Then I have 100 people who say that they had the same experience. Then I have 100 people who said that your hardware is faulty. And then I have 100 people who said, yeah, it's just the NVIDIA and the X11. Like, it's just, I have 100 people contradicting each other
Mm-hmm.
and saying the same thing, basically. And yeah, some people, a lot of, like, well, I expected this, but some people also, like, said that I was purposely deceiving, or even somebody also said unintentionally deceiving, that Linux is buggier than it actually is. But like, I have no like agenda or anything. I'm just
You're not being paid
sharing
by
my
Microsoft, are you?
yeah. I haven't been paid by Microsoft. I'm just sharing like my own observations and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. I like really want Linux to work as well as it can, and but yeah, I expected it because that's just it seems Linus got pretty much the same experience, except way worse than me.
I I think when it comes to these issues with Linux, I think I get it. I get people not wanting though like the issues to be in the spotlight, especially when the video does pop off and do like pretty
Yeah,
well. I get it.
yeah.
Like you want the thing that you use to be shown in a good light, but
Yeah.
I think that what Linus did, and I think that the issues that you had, and anybody else who does their own Linux challenge, or anybody else who just happens to use Linux and then talks about it online, it's not necessarily like it's one thing to have these issues and then come to the conclusion that Linux is bad and Linux will always be bad. Like that's one thing. But when you have these experiences, these are legitimate things that need to be dealt with. Like it's well established that the Nvidia drivers aren't as good as they could be on Linux.
Yeah.
Sometimes X11's like 50 years old. It's a little bit buggy. That's why we're trying to
Yeah.
replace it. And these issues are things that I get the same sort of comments whenever I point out something that's going, unless it's like the cool thing to hate it. Whenever I point out something that's a legitimate problem on Linux, I get the same sort of comments. It's not just looking at it from the outside. Like everybody who points out these legitimate problems are going to get them.
Yeah.
I
And
think.
like,
Sorry.
I just wanted to say that in terms of them being valid issues, it's also that I had also a lot of comments that said that you're using hardware that's not meant for Linux, so stop blaming Linux. Basically, the NVIDIA graphics card.
Yeah, because you're
And
supposed to buy a new computer every time you want to install Linux on it.
yeah, like I'm not really blaming Linux, like at all, in the sense that, of course, um, actually related to that, a lot of some people pointed out that I shouldn't use the word Linux because Linux is just the kernel, not the operating system, and stuff like that. It's just
I
that.
I ban these
generally
people from my
speaking,
Discord.
when
I hate them.
it's
I genuinely hate these people.
it's like it's just like when you say that um, my Linux desktop is laggy, then sure, yeah, it's technically not
Yeah,
maybe the most
you
accurate
actually
thing to
maybe
say.
20 KDE running GNU Linux. Like, shut up. We know. Everyone in the room knows what's being said right now. Like, I get it. You want the exact specific thing to be mentioned, but like everybody here knows what we're saying. Can we just move on and talk about something productive?
Yeah, it's just like yeah, I understand all of these things. It's just like Nvidia is you know Nvidia is not being the best Linux supporter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I understand. Like yeah, but the issue still is that um that's just the reality. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like if I want to have the smoothest experience, I might have to buy an AMD card and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. It's just like I'm not blaming Linux for it. It's just an observation.
Yeah.
And it's just like but then it's like people, a lot of them are like I don't want to say anything negative about those people, but it's just that
Okay,
I
I'll do
hope
it for
some of
you.
them realize I just hope they realize that they shouldn't tie their identity with things like that or
Mm-hmm.
anything, in the sense that if you have to go so far in the copium spectrum that you start coping with the fact that Linux isn't the thing that's the problem. Linux is just the kernel. The issues are the desktop environment and things and this and that. Like, yeah, technically it is correct, but like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just my experience. That's all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
tying your identity with anything mostly is something that you probably shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. I think the issue with referring to things in a very specific way comes back to the fact that Linux is very much it. A lot of people that use Linux are very much doing it in a hobby way, where you're going to dig into understanding everything that's going on. Like, you know about the desktop environment, you know about your kernel, you maybe even have like a custom kernel, maybe you know what bootloader you're running, you know all of this stuff about the internals of the system. Whereas if you're using Windows or macOS, like, you can say, hey, this thing on Windows is like, whatever, my Windows desktop isn't working. No one really cares about the internals of Windows. Like, there's probably some Windows engineer that's like, want to be specific about it, but the regular person, they don't care. But when it
Yeah,
comes to
they're like,
Linux, like, because Linux is all about building it up yourself, like, there are these systems where you build them up yourself. There are a lot of people that have this internal knowledge that get a little bit picky about what's being said.
yeah, it's when people say Linux, it's just an umbrella term to
Mm.
refer to the general experience, I suppose. Like, um, but yeah, it's just like I don't know. It's all of these observations and things shouldn't be looked at as an attack on Linux or you as a person, because
Hmm.
that's what people are interpreting it as. But it's just like something to keep in mind and may perhaps try to improve, because being in denial about things like that is never going to solve anything.
Well, the interesting thing I've seen is they'll like the regular users will be a lot of not every like a lot of people I've had that have been like very positive about videos like this, very positive about any sort of
Oh
criticism.
yeah.
But the people I've found to be the most receptive about issues like this, they might have an issue with the way you reported this, but I've spoken to a lot of developers, and whenever I do a video on whatever project they're doing, I do a video on a distro, I do a video on like anything like that, the developers, for the most part, as long as you aren't there specifically to tear the project down, most of them are very happy to hear like any sort of feedback. And if you have negative feedback, obviously they don't want their project to be bad, and maybe they
Yeah.
don't like that that's a problem, but they're happy to hear that like this is an issue that some people are having, so they can actually go and address it and make sure more people aren't having it. Like, especially,
Yeah.
um, I use Arch Linux. Back I think a year ago, they introduced like an easier way to install it. And when they first
Right.
introduced this tool, it was so buggy. If you typed like the wrong character on your keyboard, it would just crash. It's like, this is not
Damn.
acceptable. It shouldn't be like this. I did a video on it, and the dev, wasn't happy that I just kind of tore it apart, but he realized, like, yeah, this is actually a problem, and this is something that needs to be dealt with. And I did a follow up, and when I did, like, it was much better. It was everything about it that I said was an issue was dealt with. And I think when it comes to the devs, I think there's always going to be those people that don't like any sort of criticism over their hobby, but
Yeah.
the people who really want to see it improve, those are the people who will at least hear you out.
Yeah. And like a lot of criticism in terms of software, in my experience, is that it's never a personal attack on the creator
Mhm.
itself. And um, a lot of people they don't even think about hurting anyone when they
Mhm.
talk about software, in the sense that before I talked about DaVinci Resolve, and I don't remember if I said anything bad, but at one point I was like, Fusion is so unoptimized, but I said, like, I don't know if it is unoptimized, but
Mhm.
it's definitely not perfectly optimized, in the sense that it doesn't work as well or as performantly as After Effects, in my experience, for certain tasks. And like, let's say if it was some indie project made by a single person, and I just said that Fusion is so unoptimized, it's just disgusting to use, it's so laggy, it just wastes my time, then of course the developer might kind of like feel offended by that. He
Mhm.
might feel discouraged, because like they put so much effort into making something, so many hours, so much like love and stuff into the program, and
Mhm.
then suddenly somebody just says that it sucks and it wastes their time, and it's like, what's the point anymore? And but like, the person who says that, they just think about the software as like an entity that
Mhm.
has no connection to people. It's just something. People don't care about software. They just, like, people genuinely, okay, well, some people do, but when you use a website to get something done,
Mhm.
or some program, you don't care about the website. You
Yeah.
just use it as a means to an end to get some tasks done. For example, if a lot of people hate YouTube or like criticize YouTube heavily, um, nobody is like passionate about YouTube as the website. People just watch it for the videos, you know.
Mhm.
Um, for games, there are people that like, games are a bit different, because games are, you can be passionate about a specific game because you really like the game
Mhm. Mhm.
itself. But tools, software as tools like websites and DaVinci Resolve and whatnot, people don't care. They just want to get their work done. So
Yeah. Yeah.
often they are way more critical um, of the software. Um, they don't think about the person who made the software. So when they do criticize and sound like mean and stuff, it's never like personal in that
Mhm.
sense. But you really have to be aware of that people act like that when it comes to software, because they just get pissed off and they say things in the moment, basically.
Yeah, I think what's important is that the software gets out of the way. Like, you don't. The only point where you really think about a tool that you're using. Let's say you've got that sickle you were using. Oh, the scythe you're using. Sorry.
Yeah,
The You don't really care to think about the scythe, except for the fact that,
yeah.
hey, it's blunt. Hey, the head's gonna fall off. If everything was good, you don't care about the rest of it. It's just doing its thing. It's getting out of the way, and I think that's the problem with There's a lot of software out there, especially like indie projects, where they because it is designed by a single person, they
Yeah,
don't have a designer there that's uh can help to alleviate those issues. Like, from my experience as a developer, as knowing other developers, devs usually aren't the best at doing design work,
yeah,
and
definitely.
a lot of the time you design the software around the way that you are going to use it, but that
Yeah,
doesn't always
and
translate.
yeah, and the other thing is that um, it's not just that you design it the way you design to use it, but it's also that you design it with the knowledge that you have, in the
Yeah,
sense that
yeah.
you know the program perfectly because you wrote it and you use it so well, you know exactly how it works. But it's kind of like you're like biased basically when you do that, in the sense that you basically forget what it's like to see the program for the first time,
Yeah.
and that can lead to issues in terms of design a lot. And it's like let's say you make a game, but in nowhere you explain that you have to press the H button to, I don't know, pick up armor or something, that you personally just entirely forgot that it's something that people don't even know, and you just design the site based off, like, or the program based off your own knowledge.
Yep, yep.
And yeah, there was something else I wanted to say as well. So um what was it? Okay, I forgot for now.
Well, along with just making sure you're explaining the system, like, and the whole design issue as well. The thing that's the most annoying about doing any software project is the documentation. If you
Yeah,
want other people to use your software, as like the bigger the software gets, the bigger that issue becomes. Not just obviously the developer documentation. Like, you can avoid that. You can forget how half the code base works and come back to it a month later. But if you want anyone to actually use the project, you need to sit down and write coherent documentation. And I cannot
yeah,
tell I cannot tell you how many projects I've seen that they have what one might call documentation, but it's a little bit hacked together. It's most of the time when I look at a piece of software for my channel, half of what I find out about the software is just sitting there experimenting with it. The
yeah,
documentation it has is bare minimal. It gets you like through the front door, but anything past that is like, yeah, you're on your own. Work it out. See how you go.
yeah. It's like the same thing goes about documentation that I just talked about. Like, you know the program so well that you don't even know how to write documentation for
Yup.
it anymore, because you don't realize what you need to write, which is
Mm-mm-mm.
um like when I have some new library or something that I want to use, I always want examples and really specific um, documentation, in the sense that if you use some specific word over and over again,
Mhm.
like for example, the Patreon API has terms like client, member, pledge, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And if I start reading client and member and they start using, I can't tell if the client and member, if they're the same thing, or if you have client, member, and user.
Mhm.
Like, I want you to have a dictionary where you explain those words, like things
Yup.
like that. Like, a lot of documentation doesn't do things like that. Like,
Mhm.
they don't have like some lexicon that explains the definitions of words, because often the documentation is written in the sense that they assume that you already have that knowledge, because
Yup.
they don't realize that those words are really vague.
Mhm.
Like, I can't tell if the client is a client that subscribed to my Patreon, or is the client somebody who, or is the client somebody who bought something, or is it just a regular user? But
Mhm.
comes out that the client is actually your account, where you create the API access, basically.
Mhm.
Like, like you need to define words like that,
Mhm.
basically, if you're going to be using them, and always give a ton of examples if you can.
Examples, I
And the
think, are
other,
very
yeah,
important.
yeah, like, I feel like, for like, it's almost like it's a tradition to not give enough examples or something. Like, I don't know, I feel like okay, I suppose it makes sense that you have a documentation which is, the only point of the documentation is to have, like, written
Mhm.
things about some specific units of the application. But I feel like it's kind of like people don't want to become tutorial articles, so they don't give enough examples, or they just don't bother updating those examples or whatever. And the thing I wanted to say before was that, unrelated to this, but about the site. For me, it's just a tool. I want to really just use it for some specific purpose. If there is something that's annoying about the site, I'm going to say this site sucks.
Yep.
And I don't even think about it. But the person who made the site, maybe he was some site master who perfected the skill of making site blades for 50 years, and it was his masterpiece of a site or something. And for them, it might be offensive, I suppose. Like, I can imagine, like, if it was somebody who made some kind of a sword or something instead of a site.
When you're saying about like API documentation, like I feel that when I like really started getting into programming, I first got into web dev, and I got really spoiled on good documentation because the first thing I got into was using React. And the React docs are incredible. So they literally have a glossary in here explaining key terms like what is a single page application, what is a compiler, what is like a CDN, all of this stuff that you need to know. And then it's got like examples for pretty much everything you could want to know. And you can do good documentation, but it's boring. Like, if you want to talk about things being boring, like documentation is certainly one of those.
Yeah, like like I have made pretty big applications, like coding applications. They're not libraries that I've designed to. I've only designed that I'm the only person who's going to be using it. But there was a time at work where I had to make documentation for like other developers, and yeah, it was kind of boring. Like, it was my first time doing it because I hadn't even done it myself. But so yeah, I can imagine that people just want to write the code, they want to get the project done, and then documentation feels like something that you have to do, but you don't really feel like doing, and it doesn't feel as important.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like, I guess I can, like, just recently I was like ranting about some library that I was trying to use, and I don't know if you're going to show this on video or not, but like, I get really mad about wasting time with libraries that don't work and are abandoned and don't have proper documentation. And
wait, failed CI last commit 4 years ago. Install instructions, installs a package that's behind master range. Literally the example below not working. Imports are broken. Literally zero documentation other than the one example that's broken. Doesn't specify you have to use API v2 instead of v1. Oh, lovely. Yup.
yeah, that's web development.
I've got a great example from like me having to write a lot of documentation. So my final year university project, we had like a full year project, and my project was continuing on this VR genomics application, like doing like gene sequencing or stuff like that in VR. It was a really cool project, but this code base was like, I want to say 20,000+ lines long, with maybe, I don't know, 100 lines of documentation at most.
Nice.
And no documentation for the architecture, nothing like that. So while the main core project was supposed to be improving the code base, by the end of that year, I think I had a 100, maybe 80 to 100 page report documenting everything about that code base. It was a nightmare because half the code made no sense because it'd been through like 10 or 20 developers who all had different styles. There was no style guide. It's just like, can I not do this, please?
Yeah, and I remember, like, one thing I had to do at work was like work with it was like a startup, and it was not an established software company. It was
Mhm.
like obviously the entire code base was written by like 2 or 3 people,
Yep.
and it had like 0 comments almost. Only comments were like, "Do tell the other guy to fix this." And like I don't even know like how old is this comment?
Is this
Is
guy
it
still
still valid
working?
and stuff like that? Yeah, and it's like it was like it was also like I'm not going to say what it was, but it's like pretty complicated stuff in the sense that it's not some simple. Okay, the code was pretty bad in the
Mhm.
sense that functions were massive. You know, like
Yep.
500 lines long Django response
Yep.
function and stuff like that. And I had to like organize that code. I had
Mhm.
to break it up into stuff like that, and like so I basically had to read and experiment through the code base like that. And yeah, maybe if they just had spent a little time on documenting the application from the beginning, then I would have saved a lot of time there.
Yeah, but then they would have to do it, and that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I think
But
that.
at the same time, as final, like I also didn't document the code after I read it, so yeah, I can see
Wait,
why
what were
they
you
didn't do
doing
that.
then?
Yeah, I was just breaking it up into functions and adding a few comments maybe, but I didn't make some documentation page about it.
Well, surely it can't be worse than the state it was in before.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, I think that's as good a point to end it off as any. Let the people know where they can find you, and if you got anything in store for the future.
Okay, so yeah, you can just check out my YouTube account. It's called Livakivi, probably in the title. And yeah, I think in terms of the Linux stuff, currently I'm not using Linux
Mhm.
because I just need to do stuff like
You need to do stuff,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, I need to do stuff. Yeah, I need to use. I do need to do video editing basically,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's best if I do it on Windows for now.
Mm,
But like, I am genuinely excited to use Linux again in the sense that I actually was surprised that the challenge and the experience was better than I expected it to be.
mm.
I expected it to be worse, and I'm genuinely excited to see some distributions like a lot of people hate Ubuntu, but I actually enjoyed using Ubuntu after I got it set up properly.
Mhm.
I think it looks really nice, for example, personally. But yeah, I'm really maybe I'll try Fedora 36 that everyone was telling me to use and stuff like that. But
Mm.
the biggest issue I had was that that made me switch back for the moment, for the time being, is that I can't use Discord without my microphone sounding like a $1, like some built-in like laptop microphone next to a noisy fan.
Yeah,
I
your
don't know.
your Discord issue is weird. I've never heard anybody have that one. I'm not really sure what was going on with that.
Yeah, it was. I actually had quite a lot of results.
Mhm.
If you just Google Linux bad microphone quality on
Mhm.
Linux or
I'll have a
Discord, I
look.
mean, uh, the thing that came out that was the issue most likely is that the audio chipset or whatever on my motherboard
Mm.
just has some issues with Discord.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know if I will be making more Linux videos, but I'll most likely still mention it at least in some videos in the future, and maybe I'll try it again for sure at one point. Um, but yeah, currently I'm making videos about renovating a an abandoned store into a house, and I'm also making videos about learning Japanese, and I soon have a 4-year anniversary update coming out, and stuff like that, general videos.
Mhm. One thing I did mean to ask, like, how long have you spent on the renovation so far?
Uh, I don't know in
Like,
terms of hours
yeah,
spent.
not hours. I mean, like, how many? Just since when you started to now, how long has it been?
I think I came here on May this year.
Hmm.
Like I don't know if it was 5th May or something, but like it was in May, and I started working on it on the first day. Like I carried all the stuff out from the room, and I guess it's been at least 4 months then, I
Wow.
think. And yeah, it's just as a really tiny spoiler, some like the most fundamental things are pretty much done in the sense that it's slowly starting to become livable, the room. But now the other hard part comes, which is like the actual stuff to really make it livable, like realistically through the winter and stuff like that. And it's going to be pretty expensive. So I'm not still 100% sure if it's going to be successful this year, but I really hope it will be. And I guess if it will be in a video as well.
Well, I wish you the best luck with that. Like, it's a really cool
Thank-
project, and if you decide to upload another part, I'm definitely going to be watching it. That's for sure.
Epic.
Well, I'll leave all of your stuff. Actually, you didn't finish listing out the rest, did you? You said the YouTube channel. Is there anything else you want to mention?
Well, like last time, I also do have a Twitter, but I don't really use it that
Yeah,
much. I mean, I do
fair
check
enough.
it, but I don't really like tweeting.
Probably
At
for the
least
best.
now. Yeah, yeah, probably is.
Is that all then?
Yeah, I also have a Twitch channel, but
You don't
I
use it.
keep saying in my videos that I will start streaming, but I really streamed like 5 times or something.
Well, I'll leave all the stuff linked down below. If you decide to actually use them or not, then people will
Yeah,
have them. Um,
yeah.
As for me, the main channel is Brody Robertson. I do my Linux videos mostly daily, like 6 days a week, something like that. Gaming channel is Brody Robertson Plays. Right now, we are playing through The World Ends With You, and I don't know what the other game I'm playing is right now. I'm probably might still be playing Slay the Spire, or I might have moved on to something like Cold of the Lamb. I'm not too sure. Check out the channel and you'll see. Other days, it's YouTube Shorts. If you're listening to
Yeah.
the audio version of this, the video version is on YouTube at Tech Over Tea. The audio version is available basically anywhere you can find podcasts: iTunes, Google Podcasts. There's an RSS feed. Add it to your favorite podcast player, and you'll be able to listen. I'll give you the last word. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, if you guys like Linux type of content, check out Prody's channel because it's one of the rare channels that has pretty rational takes on pretty much everything Linux related. If you don't want to hear about, I'm not actually. People are going to tell who I'm going to talk about.
uh,
Yeah, that's it.
well, I'll take the endorsement.
Okay.
See you guys later.
See you.